Good morning, Agent Doherty. My name is Doug Weinstein. I'm the attorney for DeMonte Kendrick. Did you knee Mr. Arnold in the back?
I don't recall that.
Did you spit on him?
No.
Would that have been appropriate to do?
Objection, Your Honor.
And we are back, and we are back. Thank y'all for watching today's video. Go ahead and hit that like button, y'all. You know this is going to be an excellent video, as they all are, and we certainly appreciate your support. We're going to hop right into this video. What you're going to see here is arguing back and forth and Judge Whitaker getting frustrated yet again, and the officer who interviewed Shannon Jackson, Shannon Stillwell, about that devastating, just tragic, fatal car crash in which Shannon was targeted and a young lady tragically lost her life. This was the subject of much back and forth yesterday and today. You're going to see, I'm just going to put the cross-examination of this investigator, but you're going to see how Max Sharp handles this situation. One more thing as well, DA Love, she is going to show up, but she has a much diminished role. She does not interview any of the major witnesses this morning, which is kind of interesting. It seems like she may have been demoted. But without further ado, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and let's get into it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Atkins.
That one's out. Just don't use that one.
Thank you. So with the first two interviews that are September 26th and September 29th, I believe, I'm going to ask Investigator Griffin, did he go down to the hospital? Did he speak with Mr. Stillwell? Did he, and later on in the direct examination, ask him about speak with him September 29th? In terms of when I'm going to ask him something that Mr. Stillwell said is going to be in that November interview. And my intent is to be very general in terms of, I'm not playing any of the statement or video. I have no intent of playing video or audio recording, but I'm going to ask him, you know, what did he say happened in terms of the events leading up to it, where they go to the gas station, he goes inside, you know, who he's with, they're driving down the street, and then he hears the gunfire. And then in terms of who he identifies, I'm not intending on introducing any photographic lineups. I am intending on asking Investigator Griffin, and I was talking with Mr. Sharp and read what he provided to court in the state about when he's asking him to identify individuals. Earlier in the interview, he asked him, you know, who did you see or recognize at the gas station? And that conversation kind of, you know, goes along. And so I'm not going to, from my intent is to elicit who he identified, like names. And I'm going to ask Investigator Griffin, you know,
as people seen at the gas station.
And I'm going to try to ask Investigator Griffin in terms of, you know, when you asked him that, were you, was it clear in the questioning whether, you know, to let it known it's not for certain he's saying, I saw them in the car versus at the gas station. So I'm going to ask him, you know, when.
Well, he clearly says with regard to when immediately before the shooting, I saw the same red car. I could tell by the lights, but he doesn't say anything about who's in it. And we know it's at least a half an hour after.
Yes, Your Honor.
At least a half an hour afterwards.
I'm not going to be asking, for example, who did he identify as the shooters or something like that? And when Investigator Griffin's on the stand, I'm going to ask him if he took out arrest warrants, and I'm going to ask him who he took arrest warrants out on. And so my intent with that line of questioning is to get out the names that he saw, whether it's at the gas station, you know, in that car. And then, and I'm not going to be asking but just a few questions about his interview in a, relatively speaking, general sense. That's the state's intent. And I also, Your Honor, and any other defense counsel, I have, you know, the crime scene photographs. We removed the photograph, which was labeled as 4, that showed Ms. Jones. There is a map where Investigator Griffin did a drive test from the gas station to the shooting location that's in his police report. So I have a Google Maps of that shows some relevant addresses and streets. And there are also addresses and streets that have came up in testimony this week in terms of to orient where this occurred. And then I have some social media that Investigator Griffin pulled and is in his police report. There's 2 photographs to include some of the individuals that he took arrest warrants out on. And then I have, and this is what I was talking about the most with Mr. Shart, and I won't speak for him, but there's in November 17th of 2018, and Investigator Griffin is aware of this, his police report that he wrote gets leaked on social media. I have removed all of the comments, and there's a lot of commentary or comments. This is after discovery has gone out in that case. And so I have a single post that has the Instagram handle, which is YFNBC_nutlife, the date, November 17, 2018, and then it has a picture of the discovery packet that this is Investigator Griffin's report. You can see his name actually in this police report. And I removed any comments or commentary on it. And so other than the crime scene photos, which are I'm only gonna publish a few. There's a total of 24, but I'm not publishing all of them. And these 2 Instagram posts, this map and the discovery packet leak, those are the exhibits that I will be tendering through Investigator Griffin.
And are you going to ask anything about a later recantation or established through him who ultimately got convicted or anything like that? Or is that the entirety?
So, Your Honor, I was telling this to Mr. Shart, I am not going to ask him about the recantation or insinuate, because of the lack of clarity on that, that because of this leaked, that I'm not going to go down that line of questioning.
Okay.
I am going to ask him that one of the arrest warrants he took out was for nickname Kelvin Watts. Kelvin Watts was not indicted on the case. Investigator Griffin is aware of that. So I'm simply going to ask him at the very end of his questioning, did you take out arrest warrants? On who? Did you ever come to learn if one of the individuals you took out an arrest warrant on was not indicted? But I'm not going to ask him about convictions or trial.
Okay. Mr. Shart.
I am satisfied with the plan as enunciated by Mr. Atkins, and I appreciate him talking to me earlier. I do have a couple questions that I just want clarity on. Am I correct that we still don't have the original letter that was written on his pad, on Investigator Griffin's pad?
So I have not seen one on Investigator Griffin's pad. I've seen that, I think it was Gwinnett County notarized letter. That's all I've seen.
Right. Okay. So then that's the alleged recantation.
Right.
And I'm not, if they don't have it, they don't have it. I get it. I'm just asking.
Are you talking about like the earlier apology letter or whatever, which, I mean, presumably it got sent to the family if that was the purpose of it, but y'all aren't using that or talking about that anyway.
Right. I was just asking for clarity. Now, the other question, I'm a little confused about the social media post with the discovery on it, because and there's no evidence one way or another about whether my client has ever seen it before the discovery in this case. But I'm not sure if the state's planning on introducing that. What I remember seeing quickly when I was speaking to Mr. Atkins was everything was removed. I don't know what import that has. I get not having the comments.
That it's posted by somebody whose handle is YFN Nutlife, possibly? I don't know. Mr. Atkins, I think there might be a relevance objection.
So, Your Honor, it's multiple relevance points. For one, that is significant in terms of, and some of there's other posts, some of which are handles that the state believes were involved in this incident. But I'm including just one. And number two, what has repeatedly came out in the trial and the state has asked questions about paperwork, snitching, how that gets out. And this is just a clear example of someone literally screenshotting a discovery packet and putting it to the public. Obviously, the commentary is removed, but it's not favorably received, I should say that, in terms of why it's significant for a number of reasons, given the testimony of witnesses in this case, in terms of what people say from the state's position to police and what people say kind of repeatedly in court or things of that nature. So it has a multiple relevance point from the state's perspective. Primarily, the first one in terms of the handle of, again, it's part of that line of, that's the state's intent. We're back and forth.
I get it. I guess what I'm asking, is that a post where your graphics team, in an effort to work with me, removed like emojis and things from the...
That's the underneath.
Okay, I understand now. There's other versions of this that have
Commentary.
like the hawk or the bird and, death to rats or, basically taunting my client. And I wasn't sure if what they're introducing was on its own a separate post or they had redacted the threatening stuff.
Okay. Are you satisfied now?
Well, yeah, if this is what it was to begin with, then it is what it is, and I agree that the commentary on the side should be redacted. I just wasn't sure if we redacted the actual post.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for working together to make
Thank you.
this less complicated.
You're welcome, Your Honor. And I'd like to also pass out to the court and defense counsel an exhibit list for Investigator Griffin.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
Out of an abundance of caution, there's no, in the entire statement, the November one, there's no one else on trial or Bruton issues but I think out of prudence, because it is, I'm asking him about what happened that night and who he identified, but a limited instruction that, that statement can only be, it's not a confession of a crime. So, but out of abundance of caution, I would just want to think through if a limited instruction is needed to just anything that is said, would be attributed to only defendant Stillwell. There's nothing in what I'm asking Investigator Griffin that I think is on its face incriminating, but I just wanted to, express that with the court I was thinking through it myself of what the
Right, because you're not just having the are you not, is it correct that you're not just having the investigator say, Mr. Stillwell identified two people who he thought, or who he saw at the JJ's Chicken, in the red car? You're having the investigator say, and it was these two people or these three people? I don't know.
He will at least say that he ended up taking out arrest warrants, and some of those people are the same. And so,
okay, but is who gets identified going to be, who Shannon identified going to be elicited from the investigator?
Yes. In terms of when you interviewed him on November, who did he
say he saw at the JJ's in the red car?
Correct, Your Honor.
And he will say these names.
Correct.
Your Honor, I hate to do this. I'm looking at this proposed exhibit 28DD DP. I don't have a problem with the state eliciting from Investigator Griffin that there were social media posts with the discovery identifying Shannon Stillwell as a witness, and people were saying horrible things or whatever the state wants to elicit. The problem I have with this exhibit is that it has a narrative at the bottom that kind of it testifies to.
I haven't seen it.
It's okay. Matt. Yes.
Yep. All right.
So the issue is in. The problem I have with it is when it gets into, when asked why he did not provide me with this information, first interviewed Shannon Jackson advised he was concerned about retaliation against his family, particularly his grandmother. That gets to, inadvertently, we're now introducing a picture from discovery, and that's testimonial. And the problem is, I'm arguing for myself, but I actually think probably the other co-defendants have a stronger argument because it's not their statement, and it affects them as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Your Honor, if I redacted the words, so it just has and I could ask Investigator Griffin, to elicit that in this post was contained, I'm not going to have, the jury won't see or read what's actually written. It will be a photograph, and it says Shannon Jackson, injured rear passenger, and then it has Investigator Griffin's, name, the case number, but that paragraph on the bottom, I can redact that.
I think that's probably needed.
Yes,
if
Your
you want
Honor.
to use that.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, with regard to everybody else, there's a Crawford issue. So I'll hear what anybody else has to say about that.
We are objecting on behalf of Mr. Williams to the admission. I spoke also with Mr. Atkins before this honorable court began. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. He agrees with that too. So Mr. Atkins stated that he's going to request a limiting instruction. I have not done a limiting instruction. If you want me to do it, I will try to do it, but I don't know what a limiting instruction would say. It gets very complicated because of the way that the case is charged with all the overt acts. This is not an overt act, so it's better than like the statement of Mr. Kendrick, let's say, or the guilty plea of Mr. Kendrick or Mr. Ryan, but
it's still
very hard to imagine somebody.
Yes, if we need to come up with some kind of a limiting, if this evidence is going to come in the way that it's been discussed, I think we need to come up with a limiting instruction that is appropriate to give. And we need to, if Griffin's our first witness, we need to do it in the next 10 minutes.
He's our second witness, Your Honor.
Okay, well, still, we're going to be, I don't know that anybody's going to have the luxury of being able to focus on a limiting instruction once we start the trial for the day. So if somebody can come up with something now, that would be wonderful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hugh and the rest, I think, probably speak for the rest of the defendants. We join in that request as well.
Well, Your Honor, we join in the objection, and we don't think that a limiting instruction is going to be able to fix the issue. So I just want to make sure, for the record, we object to this.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I will work on crafting a limited instruction. that I think for the sake of both defense and state should be brief, because what he's stating, if that limiting, because he's not directly stating anything against any defendant in the courtroom, he's discussing people who are not in this courtroom that the state believes are not friends or part of in any way, shape, or form, any defendant in this case. I don't know what exactly would be gleaned against another defendant from what I'll be asking.
Okay, well, I mean, you, the state, must be presenting it for some reason to try to establish your story of why these defendants are guilty of the crimes with which they're charged, or you wouldn't be presenting it. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, that being the case, and I think it is to show your theory of the back and forth between the whomever rival gangs.
Correct, Your Honor.
And so that concept, this tends to further develop and further establish that concept. And so if there isn't a limiter, then it gets considered against everybody. So there definitely needs to be some kind of a limiting instruction, and if it's not sufficient to let the jurors know what to do and not do, then, I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, we can't let the evidence come in this way.
Yes, Your Honor. I will work on finding a
Okay.
limiting
So
instruction.
how long
provides
is
that.
our first witness going to take?
Your Honor, I believe that first witness should be 45 minutes to an hour,
Okay.
at least is my
Okay.
prediction.
Okay. Well, then I guess we'll take that witness and then take an early break and figure out the limiting instruction. Okay. Are we ready for the jury? And is there going to be any objection to the rec itself now that that one has been taken out? That was the only one that there was objection to, I guess.
No objection.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's get the jury. You have your witness?
Hang on, and this is the.
Yes, this is the witness.
Okay. Okay. The ATF person? Okay.
Excuse me, Your Honor. We received some photos intended to be used as exhibits a few minutes ago from the state. I'm sorry. We received some photos this state intends to use as exhibits, I think with this witness. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you intend to publish all of those photos?
Is this that 1 through 31 again?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe it should be publishing about 16 or 17 photos of those.
Okay, so for example, there's several that have, there's 4 or 5 with the same firearm. There's another 3 or 4 with the same firearm. Are you going to just publish one of those
Your Honor, we will publish, not all of them. I cannot say right off the top of my head that it should be just one or two angles of the same.
What is this even about?
I have no idea.
You have no idea
In terms of what
what
the
it's
request
about?
is.
Well,
You have no idea what the photos are about, what this
I
guy's
do
going
know
to
what the photos
testify
are
to?
about. I don't know what the request is about.
Okay,
I understand the request. Tell me what he's going to be testifying to. What is this about? What are the photos
The
of?
photos are photos of the crime scene, or the crime
Which
scene.
crime
The
scene? There are
crime
all
scene
crime
located.
scenes in this case?
I was going to say that, Your Honor. It's located at Confederate Avenue and Boulevard Avenue.
Okay,
South.
and 17 is still a lot. Is this actually one of the overt acts, or is this
This is
just?
an overt act. Your Honor.
Okay. And if you are doing several pictures from different angles, is there some reason that the different angles are needed?
Yes, because in some of the photos, some of the items that we were discussing are not captured, and so the angle will capture it in some pictures and not in some things in the
All
photos are
right, I'll
incidentally
just
there.
try to do it, without belaboring
And-
anything, please.
and let me also clarify, Your Honor, I'm not only objecting to the publication.
Or, because you started out clarifying, so is there an objection?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Your Honor.
Sorry, that's my fault. I thought you started out clarifying. Are you now objecting?
I am objecting to the admission as well as the publication of multiple images of the same firearm
Okay,
repeatedly.
why don't you get with him and show him which ones you plan to, the publication of or the
Both.
admission of?
Both,
Okay.
Your Honor, they're cumulative.
Okay, this should have been done before now.
Well, they just
Go
came-
get with,
if-
yes, no, I'm not
Okay.
criticizing you. This should have been done before now. Get with the defense and show them the photos, and I don't know if I need to, then you let me know which ones you object to. Sorry about this. You can stay and hang out, or you can walk back over there. Let me know before you do, so we can move the camera. We got told we were ready, but turns out we're not.
Am I allowed to sit down, Your Honor?
Yeah.
15, 31. So are you trying to put them in? I'm not trying to put them in. I'm only published it. This is just not you. I'm going to you get just what I'm saying. There's going to be 15 photos that will be published. There's going to be 31 in total. And these are the photos that will be published. Presuming, obviously, that she.
Okay, so you plan on publishing
13, 15 photos published.
I understand, but let's talk about specifics. You plan on publishing 31? Yes. Okay, how about publishing?
Sorry about that, Ingram. You know, they,
That's the opposite. That's the opposite.
Okay, wait a minute. Go back.
have you seen the photos? Have you seen the photos? That's what he said.
So like, when we see the firearm, like, the serial number. Okay,
That is the opposite.
hold on a second.
Oh, for the passenger.
I believe that's the first shot we see. Okay, I'm going to object to that.
That's right. I want you to come. What's right?
Okay.
Yes.
It's suspected.
Okay.
To my point, I picture the 15, the last one. That's the black blood that was located. You want to do it?
No, I'm right.
Black hoodie, but you can't really tell that's what he's here for. One picture of your point of identification. That is.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. So I have gone over with the state the photos they plan on publishing.
Okay.
And I could read those specific ones, but I don't, we've narrowed down the ones that they plan on publishing. So
Okay.
I have no objections to the ones that
Okay.
the state has shown me that they plan on publishing. Excuse me. The other ones that they do not plan on publishing include many photos that are cumulative, they're redundant to others. So any of the ones that they do not plan on publishing that we haven't gone over, I object to the admission of those.
All right. Well, you're going to have to be a little more specific.
Okay, then let's. we
If
can-
they still want to have admitted the ones they're not going to publish.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, then I need to know
Okay, then.
what those are.
Then I would object to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, 24, 25, 28, 30, 31, and they went through 33, correct? 31.
All of these are not, these are not.
Okay. And so what they are going to publish then is
I could,
12, 19, 21, 23, 26, 27, and 29.
that's my understanding, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, that would not be correct. Based on,
Okay. Which ones are you going to publish?
the state intends to publish 2, 31, 3,
Oh my God. So could you do them in order, please? 2, 3, 5.
Your Honor, the reason why they're like that is because they are organized by how they will be published, but I can go through.
What are they going to be? 2, 3, 5, 31. What else?
Sure, there are 2, 3, 5, 31, 9, 10, 21, 29, 12, 27, 26,
It's crazy.
19, and 23.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me put those in an actual order that makes sense. Give me a second to rule on.
And you showed me.
Okay. And so 1.
So, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
So
Then,
you would object to whichever ones they're not publishing?
yes, Your Honor.
Okay. As cumulative or what?
As either cumulative or not relevant. I mean, I need to sit down and look at the actual photos they sent this morning to be more specific on those. My concern is that there are multiple pictures of the guns, and I do not want the multiple cumulative pictures of those guns
Pull them all
going
up on the
back.
screen so we can all look at them at the same time. So what does 1 show? Why is 1 needed?
The state does, just one second, Your Honor. This version of the intends to publish. Yeah, thank you. state doesn't intend to publish one, excuse me, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, stop. My understanding, I just wrote down I know that.
Correct.
Because I got which one, but you intend to tender them. And so and there is an objection. And so I have to rule on whether I'm going to admit them. Okay, so I'm only going to be asking you about the ones that you intend to tender but not publish because there's not an objection to the ones that you intend to publish. So tell me why the ones that I'm going to ask you about are both relevant and not cumulative, why you need them.
As to the state's exhibit number 1 that the court asked about, this is a crime scene photo that shows another yet angle of that particular area where they stopped. It could be helpful to the jury if it becomes an issue about where in fact the cars were positioned.
Okay, I don't know what this crime is about. So, and this is the very first picture that I am seeing of it. So, what happened? What was the crime?
No problem, Your Honor. This crime scene was started off as a traffic stop because of a traffic violation.
Okay.
That the officers observed a failure to signal. After which the officers then went to pull over the car after activating their emergency lights. They in fact did so. And upon stopping, the persons contained inside the vehicle who were later identified as Mr. Martinez Arnold and DEMOTED Kendrick, then stopped their vehicle for a brief moment, did some fidgeting, then took off at a high rate of speed in the area going on to the 20 eastbound.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can the witness be excused while we go through
this?
this? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right, so if y'all can avert that camera, thank you. Okay, so there's a chase and then there's a crash.
There's a chase, then there's a crash after the
And then
chase.
they run out of the
They
car.
run in separate directions, and those photos could become necessary if there's a disagreement or confusion about which directions in which they
Okay, and so it's the black car that was the car they were in?
Black Monte Carlo.
And that's where it lands, is up against that guardrail?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, well, 1 and 4 honestly look like the same picture.
And, Your Honor, as I'm looking at it, if the court wants me to remove 4, I can do that. I do not have a problem doing that.
It is not what the court wants or doesn't want, although the court does want attorneys who know how to try a case. But my rulings are based on the rules of evidence, okay? So, is that the same photo?
It is not the same photo.
Is it almost the same photo?
In my estimation, no, Your Honor, because it's a closer view and it gives more perspective as to what is in that photo.
Which one do you want?
The state would be fine with having photograph number 1.
Okay. So 4 is out. Are you withdrawing 4 or am I ruling 4 out?
State can remove 4.
Okay. I'm going to let 1 in. So then the next one would be 6, which is you can see the license plate fine in 5. You don't need 6. You can withdraw it or I'll rule it out.
State can remove 6.
Okay. 7. What does 7 show that the ones you already have don't?
7 gives a better perspective as to the wooded area because it's a little dark, as you can see, Your Honor. It shows better view of the vehicle and some of the portion to the left of it where you see the door open that eventually becomes much clearer once the crime scene takes the interior, the inside of that driver's side of the vehicle.
Yeah, I disagree with the characterization of what's in the photo, but the court can see for themselves.
You don't need 7. Cumulative. All right, 8.
8 gives a perspective of the passenger side vehicle, a closer view, as will be shown in the next exhibit, a closer view that you can see. It's much clearer.
Okay, wait, the next exhibit, meaning what?
Exhibit 9, it kind of is the same type of profile for the.
All right, 9 is the driver's side of the car.
Yes.
And
I'll,
so-
I'll withdraw my objection to 8, Your
Okay.
Honor.
So 8 is fine. Okay, what does 11 show that 9 and 10 and 12 do not?
11 shows, Your Honor, the inside door of the vehicle. You can see inside the side panel where the pocket is, whereas in 10 you don't have that opportunity.
And is there anything significant in the side pocket?
Just the things that are in there that we expect that the officer can say that he saw multiple items in plain view.
Anything of significance?
I would say no. If you don't want to, the state can do without 11.
All righty, you're withdrawing 11. 13.
13. This shows that the car is on because as you can see in 13, the radio is there, the keys are still in the ignition. It provides context as to the fact that this vehicle was in fact still left running.
That's all in 12 as well, Your Honor.
Seems to be.
It's not clear, as clear as it would be in 13, Your Honor. That is the reason for that publication, purpose for that being a part of this.
Then do you want 13 instead of 12?
No, 12 is more important than 13 because...
All right, I'll let 13 in. Then we have 14. What's the point of 14?
14 is a closer view of the keys being in ignition. We can withdraw it.
All right. 15.
The state is in this photograph. It's a direct photo of the firearm that was located within the car. If in fact this is to be admitted, Your Honor, it could show a better perspective of this firearm. Which
Is it not pretty well shown in 12? The entirety of it is shown in 12.
Okay, that's fine. We can withdraw 14.
All righty. That was 15.
Excuse me, 15. As is the case for 16.
All right, thank you. And then 17?
17, we can withdraw it.
All right, 18 shows the back seat.
Yes, I believe we already agreed to withdraw that
Okay.
from publication, so that is
All
not
right.
necessary.
Withdrawing it from, are you not going to tender it for admission?
Excuse me, we will not be seeking to admit that.
Okay. All right, and then
19 is a
19, there's no objection to 19. So 20, you're actually able to see who
yes,
who it's of. So I would think that one is fine. 22. Where did that come? Oh, that's just a close-up of what's
Yes.
in 21.
It is a closer view in this photograph, Your Honor. You can see a little bit better the serial number as well as the make and model of that firearm.
Then I would suggest they should use 22 instead of 21. They don't need both, Your Honor.
Well, you can't tell where it is if it's just 22. 22 is fine. 24 is the trunk.
Yes.
Why?
This had within it just a few items that were found. They're not really pertinent, but they were part of the crime scene photos. We can withdraw.
All right. 25.
25, Your Honor. This shows the black glove that was mentioned in the report. It focuses in on that particular portion inside the middle console.
All right. That looks like a gray glove to me, but okay. Is that, in 26 it looks black.
Yeah, I don't see the black glove in 25.
I don't either. It's probably just because it's a bright flash or something. And so why do you need 25?
Because without that perspective, you may not know that that's the center console. And that is why we, in fact, use a both, because you need the perspective to know.
All right. And then 28.
28.
Shows the serial number of that long gun?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. And 30, where's 30? So is this a third gun?
State's 30 is not. That, we can withdraw that. That is a better, the other one was a little blurry, but this is, another photo's coming in with this handgun, so we can withdraw it.
And I think that's all of them.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all. That should have been done before now. We wasted 20 minutes of the jury's time. Let's get the witness back in.
A few more questions for you. Would like to ask you, after the two occupants of the vehicle were taken into custody, where were they transported?
They would have been transported to the Fulton County Jail.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, we did have Grady EMS out
Objection
there.
asked and answered.
Overruled.
We had Grady EMS on the scene, so as long as they're cleared by Grady, they would be transported to Fulton County Jail. If they deemed that they needed more medical attention, they would go to the hospital.
And the items, what was done with the vehicle, to your recollection, that was driven by them that evening?
The vehicle had been sent to impound.
And the items that were recovered from inside the vehicle, and what was done with those?
They would be transported by myself and Officer Munson to the city annex to be put into evidence.
With incidents that happen at the APD, that APD responds to, are they given APD case numbers?
Yes.
And do you know the APD case number associated with this incident?
Yeah, it'd be right here on the report in front of me.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what the APD case number is.
Is it okay if I read it right from there?
You can look at it and
Okay.
recall it.
All right.
Okay, what is that?
152740150.
And as it stands for this case, with respect to your involvement, did that conclude your involvement with this matter?
Yes.
State has no further questions for this witness. Your Honor.
All right. Are there defense questions for this witness? Okay.
Good morning. Is it Agent Doherty?
Agent Doherty, yes.
Agent Doherty. Good morning, Agent Doherty. My name is Doug Weinstein. I'm the attorney for DeMonte Kendrick. So I have a few questions. You were, as you testified, that you are the person that apprehended Mr. Arnold, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you tased Mr. Arnold in order to apprehend him, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you knee Mr. Arnold in the back?
I don't recall that.
Did you spit on him?
No.
Would that have been appropriate to do?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Would it have been appropriate if your partner kneed and spit on Mr. Kendrick after tasing him?
I'm not objecting the same grounds, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay. After this arrest, were you ever called to testify? And I'm speaking specifically regarding my client, Mr. Kendrick. After this arrest, were you ever called to testify at any hearing, trial, or sentencing for Mr. Kendrick?
I don't recall if I was or not.
Are you aware of Mr. Kendrick being sentenced for his possession of a firearm and serving time with regards to this incident?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right. Are there other defense attorneys with questions for this witness? All right. Is there any redirect?
State has no redirect for this.
All right. Agent, thank you for your time, and you are excused. I should say Mr. Adkins emailed a proposal, and then both Ms. Pursfield and the court worked on it, and this is what we've come up with. And I think the base of both of them was the pattern limiting instruction and our pattern jury instructions. Actually, I see one alteration that already needs to be put. You are to consider, I think it would read better, you are to consider those statements only against Mr. Stillwell and only for the offenses for which he is charged. So thoughts? Comments?
I believe that proposed jury instruction may be a bit overbroad as it applies to Mr. Stillwell, because I don't believe if there's any relevance at all. I mean, I kind of feel like there's no relevance, any of this, against Mr. Stillwell, period, but I understand we need to distinguish the co-defendants from Mr. Stillwell because Mr. Stillwell's words, but I would say to count one, Mr. Stillwell to count one if you deem it appropriate.
All right.
Count one.
All right. Let me make that alteration. Is admitted against some parties and not others, and for some counts and not others. When this happens, that evidence may be considered by you, the jury, only as to the party against whom it is offered and only for the count for which it is offered and not against any other defendant or for any other count or purpose. During the testimony of the next witness, you are going to hear about statements made by defendant Stillwell, also known as Jackson. You are to consider those statements only against Mr. Stillwell and only as to count one. You may not consider those statements in any way in determining the guilt or innocence of any other defendant in this case besides Mr. Stillwell. And I can add again the any other count if you'd like that said again.
Well,
statements. You may not consider those statements as to any other count, and you may not consider those statements in any way in determining the guilt or innocence of any other defendant in this case besides Mr. Stillwell. Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach with a matter?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the case.
Yes, and everybody can go ahead and use the restroom.
Your Honor, may I just make sure that we maintain, on behalf of Mr. Nichols, that we maintain our objection to the admissibility of this evidence?
At all.
Yes, thank you. And also, I think I speak on behalf of everyone else that they maintain their objection on the admissibility of the evidence.
Does everybody else?
Yes.
Okay.
May it please the court, Your Honor. Investigator Griffin?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell, okay?
Good morning.
Good morning. At some point, I may ask you about the interview, the November 2nd interview with my client.
Okay.
Can I bring up a transcript? I don't want you to read it, but if you need to refer to it, I want you to have it.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. May I approach?
You may.
So.
Investigator Griffin, you spoke to my client 3 times in regards to this incident, correct?
That's correct, I did.
All right. And you viewed him as a victim.
Yes, absolutely he is.
And you still view him as a victim?
I still do.
Okay. And on direct, you said you try to be relatable.
Mm-hmm.
In these interviews that are all recorded, you treated Mr. Stillwell with respect, did you not?
I believe so.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Mr. Stillwell treated you with respect, correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay. You tried to be kind to Mr. Stillwell.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk to you about the facts as you understand them based on your investigation and what Shannon told you. in that interview.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about Miss Duncan, Miss Jones, and Shannon Stillwell, who you referred to as Shannon Jackson.
Yes, I apologize if that's not.
No, that's fine. That's fine. In a gray SUV, correct?
I think the color is actually green, but
Green. Okay.
it can be mistaken as gray.
Okay. And what make and model is that car?
It was a Mercury Mountaineer. I don't know the year though.
Okay, that's fine. So they're in a Mercury Mountaineer during this incident.
That's correct.
As you understand it, the lead up to this incident is Mr. Stillwell and Miss Duncan had at that time a 10-month-old daughter together, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as you understand from your investigation, the plan was for Miss Duncan to come pick up Shannon, and Shannon was to go watch the baby at his grandmother's house, correct?
That is correct.
And his grandmother lives, I don't want to give addresses, but the south of Grant Park.
I don't remember, but if you say that's what it is, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
A couple miles from JJ's Fish.
Yes.
Okay. And so Miss Duncan had asked Miss Jones to drive her to pick up Shannon on Lakewood Avenue.
That is correct.
Okay. And Miss Duncan and Miss Jones are friends or knew each other prior to this incident.
That's also correct.
Okay. And your understanding is Mr. Stillwell did not know Miss Jones prior to this incident.
As he explained it to me, he did not know Mrs. Tiara Jones.
Okay. So Miss Duncan and Miss Jones is driving her green SUV.
That's correct.
And they pick up Shannon at Lakewood and they decide to stop at JJ's Fish. It was JJ's Chicken and Fish?
I think it's JJ's Chicken and Fish. Is the
JJ's Chicken and Fish at the corner of University and Pryor, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So, and at JJ's Chicken and Fish, you learned from Shannon that he saw Bobby Hardy. I think he referred to him as Smoke.
That's correct.
And I just want to correct you. I think you said Jamal Ward. You meant Jamal Baines, correct?
No.
Oh, it was Jamal Ward?
That's correct.
Also Merle?
Yes.
Okay. At that location.
1192 Pryor. That's correct.
And he saw them going in and out of a red Camaro.
I think it was in and out of the Chevron and back and forth to the car and inside the Chevron.
And he took note of their presence, but he had no interactions with them at all.
That is correct. He did not have any interaction with them.
Okay. And you were able to obtain the surveillance video from the parking lot of the JJ's Chicken and Fish.
That's correct.
And the surveillance video corroborated that information.
That's correct.
Okay. So, your understanding, Mr. Stillwell goes into the store, orders food, waits for the food that he's going to take back to his grandmother's house.
That is correct.
Okay. And at some point, the red Camaro leaves, takes a left. Could you do me a favor? Could you put the map up again, please? Thank you. While they're working to help me. On the surveillance video, you also observed a black sedan.
That is correct.
Okay, and it is an older model black sedan.
Mm-hmm.
And this black sedan on the surveillance video, you tell me, was it interacting with the red Camaro?
Interacting in the sense that people got out and going back and forth, I don't recall. I don't think that's what I saw.
Okay. At some point on the surveillance video, and according to the witness statements, that red Camaro, while Mr. Stillwell, Miss Jones, and Miss Duncan are still at the JJ's, takes a left out of the parking lot and goes south on Pryor, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And maybe 20, 30 minutes after that car left, the car driven by Miss Jones, the SUV, the green SUV, takes a right out of the JJ's parking lot to head north on Pryor. That is correct. Okay. And this route that's depicted on this map is what is this outline? What does that depict exactly?
Yes. I'm not sure if you want me to tell you what people told me, but
Well, is that a route that you drove, or is that your understanding of the route that the SUV driven by Miss Jones drove?
no. So this is not the route of the SUV. This would be the route of the red Camaro.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you for that clarification. So the circuitous route is not the route that the SUV driven by Miss Jones drove.
That is correct. I can
Okay.
show you if you'd like me to, but that is not the route.
Okay. The bottom line is your understanding the SUV was traveling eventually to Mr. Stillwell's grandmother's house.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought it was going to his house. I think they had a disagreement. I could be wrong, but I thought he was going to go to his apartment after they got the food, which
Okay.
is back on the over near Four Seasons. I think that's what I noted in my police report.
Okay. All right. Do you disagree that, and I don't want to talk about specific addresses, but
Okay.
Mr. Jackson gave you, Mr. Stillwell gave you the number of his grandmother,
He did.
and he told you he lived with his grandmother.
If I think on two different occasions, yes, he told me he lived with his grandmother, but at another time, he told me he was concerned about getting his house shot up and his grandmother. So I'm not sure if that meant because he lived with his grandmother or if it's two different addresses. But I am of that opinion initially, yes.
Okay. So your understanding is this SUV is traveling in the direction, Miss Jones is traveling a route that was being dictated to her by Miss Duncan.
That's correct.
Okay. And in this route, suddenly a car speeds up behind this SUV that has Mr. Stillwell in the backseat.
That is correct.
Okay. And the engine's revving.
That's correct.
Okay. And there's high definition lights that led Mr. Stillwell to believe that that was the same car he saw in the parking lot of the JJ's.
That's correct.
Okay. And then immediately, well, almost immediately after speeding up behind, gunshots ring out.
That's also correct.
Okay. And there's about 20 shots fired at the green SUV that Ms. Jones, Ms. Duncan, and Mr. Stillwell are in from this car that's speeding up behind them.
That is also correct.
That green SUV is hit in the rear. What did you say, the rear lift gate?
Like the rear lift gate. That's correct.
Okay, and also the back windshield was shattered, correct?
That is correct.
And according to Mr. Stillwell, upon being hit, the car starts to roll and flip multiple times.
That's correct.
And of course, sadly, you know through your investigation that the driver of the SUV, Miss Jones, was hit in the face with one of the bullets fired from the car that was speeding up behind him.
That's also correct.
Okay. And she lost control of the car.
She did.
Mr. Stillwell told you when the car finally stopped flipping over multiple times, he couldn't breathe. And Ms. Duncan had her injuries, and sadly, Miss Jones was deceased.
That's correct.
Okay. The defects that you observed, you took note of the defects in the car,
I did.
and they were all in the rear.
The ones that I took note of, they were all in the rear.
Okay. And that is consistent with the information that Mr. Stillwell gave you.
Yes, it was.
Okay. You collected shell casings.
I think approximately 12.
12 shell casings, and they were all from what kind of gun?
The caliber was a .762 caliber.
Okay. And the gun that you found on the scene is not the type of gun that would shoot .762 caliber ammunition.
That is correct.
Okay, and there was no other shell casings found on the scene from any other guns.
No other shell casing, just the ones that I mentioned.
There is absolutely no evidence at all that any shots were fired from that green SUV, is there?
No evidence at all.
And you, in fact, not only collected video from the JJ's parking lot, but you also drove the route and looked for, were they city-owned video cameras on the street?
I found out they were owned by the city. That is correct.
Okay, how many different cameras did you find on this?
I'm not certain of the exact number. I might have mentioned it in my police report, but I did take note at that intersection, there was what I thought were security cameras or traffic cameras at that intersection of Milton and Hank Aaron.
Okay, and there's also a traffic light at Milton and Hank Aaron, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so, why did you spend your time looking for these surveillance cameras?
Well, again, there was not a lot of people that were willing to tell me what happened or even saw it. So I have to rely on cameras or, of course, the testimony of the witnesses.
Did you view that as an important part of your investigation?
Absolutely.
Did you want to make sure you collected all video in a timely manner?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Okay. The injuries sustained by the three victims in that green SUV. Miss Duncan, who was in the passenger seat, suffered a fractured leg, correct?
That is correct.
And that was, to be clear, that was from the car accident, the car flipping multiple times, not from gunshots.
That is my understanding. It's from the accident.
Okay. My client, Mr. Stillwell, suffered fractured ribs.
Yes, he did.
Collapsed lung. And when you went to go see him, he had back injuries. The hospital had to actually insert a tube into his back, correct?
Well, I didn't know the last part, but I thank you for telling me that. I knew about the first two injuries.
And those were all from the car flipping over after Miss Jones was shot and lost control of the vehicle.
That is my understanding.
Okay, and then, of course, Miss Jones sadly lost her life.
Yes, sir.
And that was due to a gunshot to her face. Shot from behind by that vehicle that was speeding up behind the green SUV.
That's correct.
Okay. I think we established that Shannon, prior to this day, did not know Tierra Jones.
That is also correct.
It is true that in this interview, Shannon repeatedly expressed remorse for what happened to Tierra.
Yes, he did.
He never suggested that what happened was okay in any way, shape, or form.
No, he didn't, which is, again, I think that contributes to the reason why he was willing to speak with me.
And in fact, he requested to write a letter of remorse to Tierra Jones's family.
That is also correct.
And he did so.
He did.
Okay. You discussed a series of incidents that had occurred to Shannon in 2015 in this interview, correct?
One in particular, I'm not sure if there was several, but one in particular.
One and then this one.
That is correct.
Okay, so you discussed, he brought it up to you that someone had shot at him at the Green store.
Yes, he did.
And a bullet grazed his forehead. Okay. And then he in fact told you that people came up to him in a club and said, "You're lucky the gun jammed. Next time it's your ass," correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, of course, there was this incident.
That's correct.
At the time of this incident, you discussed what was going on with Mr. Stillwell. Mr. Stillwell denied any involvement in the murder of Donovan Thomas, correct?
I don't think I specifically asked him that question. That wouldn't have been the focus of my interview. I think another detective might have asked him that, but I didn't specifically ask him that. That's not something that I was interested in knowing.
Well, at the time of this shooting, You did ask, when you were with the gang investigators, the name Kenneth Copeland or Woody came up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the truth is that at the time of this shooting of Tierra Jones, Woody was in custody. He was in federal custody, correct? Well, you might not know where he was, but he was in custody.
That's correct. I did find out later where he was. That is correct.
Okay. And you spoke with Mr. Stillwell about the ongoing beef between Kenneth Copeland, Woody, and Shell Kell.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Stillwell referred to that beef as generational beef between those two individuals, correct?
He did. He did.
He described the situation as they shoot at Woody and his people, Woody shoots back, correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Stillwell was concerned because he felt that people perceived him as Woody's friend.
Yes, that is correct.
And that people were now shooting at him because Woody was in custody and they could not get Woody, correct?
I think I can infer that. I'm not sure if he specifically said that, but I was of the same impression.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure. Any other defense attorneys with questions for this witness?